everybody. It's good to be here with you. And now home base after spending a lot of time outside today. And sometimes when we, the winter time is such a time of, being indoors and, trying to manage the projects that are inside and trying to be productive with, the coldness outside and trying to get motivated to do what you can, and then spring comes and it's like, just today was just such a beautiful day to be outside. And, I went on a hike, I met a friend, and, we caught up on some things. And at the same time, it was just like, we just did not want to go back indoors. Like there was this awareness of having such a great day outside that we just didn't want to get back to go do those tasks that we knew were going to keep us inside, because we were enjoying so much being outside. And the air felt so good today. The briskness of just the sun being out, it was just so lovely. And then it's like, you look at how sometimes we even make excuses for, why when we're indoors, we don't want to go outdoors because it's so cold or there's snow on the ground and ice on the ground. And then when there is this beautiful day, we want to make excuses to not do these other tasks that require us to, be in the mental grind or in the computer grind or whatever, because it's so lovely outside that we just want to be outside, because the winter was such a time of being inside and having that cabin fever, if you will. So anyway, it was just interesting to compare our notes about, like, since we hadn't seen each other in a while, like what he was doing in the winter season, what I was doing, what are we now doing for the spring season? What does that mean? What kind of projects are on our plate that we're trying to deal with? And again, with each season brings new challenges and, new tasks and projects that are, focused on that next season. And I really saw how, I'm not as productive in the wintertime doing like carpentry projects or, making, refinishing a piece of furniture or something, because like the time it takes to bring the item inside and outside and not being able to count on the weather. And, it's like, you're kind of like, okay, well, I'm going to wait until the spring to finish this project. Right. But then the spring comes and, part of the spring is that the ground being so, filled with snow, and then it's like you have all this extra moisture on the ground. So then the first part of spring is all this extra moisture on the ground. And when you go on the trail, it's like really muddy. And that's because of the season leaving from winter into spring. And then you've got all this, the other terrain that you're walking on, because, the frozen parts are becoming, alive again. And then you have all this extra water. So with each season brings not just physically the challenges of being inside and outside, but then let's take that to what's going on in our life in terms of like, what are the projects, your goals that you've been putting off because you were in the winter season, and what projects are on the horizon as we move into the new year, that are part of you living into, the best version of you. And what does that look like? What things do you have to do to rearrange your life to be able to get your focus so that you can then flourish? Because it's like the springtime is like a preparation time also for, the harvest of the summer. And, are we ready for those things, internally within our home, externally, the trips that we're going to take in terms of like driving from here to there, these adventures that we're going on based on the season, and pulling in the biblical feasts. We have the season of Passover, which is coming up. And so we have this preparation of spring cleaning. We have this preparation of getting the chametz out of our house, the extra things that are that puff up our life and make it, let's just say abundant. And yet at the same time, it's like remembering the desert time, remembering the time that God led us through these difficult periods in our life, and remembering that God is the source of our blessing and our abundance. And how can we, appreciate God more? What can we do in our life to make him more of a priority than maybe our selfish desires that maybe even aren't that good for us, which then brings us into this awareness of like when God, died on the cross for us, for our sins and all the sins of the past, like what sins or what challenges are we still struggling with? Are we still like on some level holding on to? And I'm sure you've seen that image previously of like there's, Jesus standing next to a little girl, and the little girl's holding on to her little tiny teddy bear, and he's like, let me have that, let me take that from you. But she doesn't want to give up the little teddy bear. But meanwhile, behind his back, he's got this ginormous teddy bear. He wants to bless her with something bigger and greater, but yet she's still holding on to the little bit of teddy bear that she has, because that's what she knows. And it's also like we want to move into this new season of our best version of ourselves. And yet sometimes we don't want to shed the things that are actually the blocks, the things that are the limitations, the things that are holding us back. But yet we have to move through that period of letting go of these things, physical things, mental things, emotional things, spiritual things that are holding us back. And a lot of times those things are where we're out of alignment with those 10 commandments, where we're out of alignment with, love your neighbor as yourself, where we're out of alignment of, are we really helping the widows, orphans, and the poor? Like with what we have, with our time, our skills, our resources, our attention. Or how many times are we like pushing somebody away because we're so focused on like what we have to do, but we're really not being present to who is in front of us and what situation is like in the moment. Like, are we paying attention to what is in the moment and what is present right here and right now? So my encouragement to you, my homework for you, if you will, is for you to get present on what your present is, and to be being, to be being in the beingness of being versus doing, like to really see that difference. And then to look at like where you've been like a hibernating, isolating, not doing things because you're like in that season of cocooning and the winter season. And as we move into spring, like what things have you put on your list that you haven't done because of the season of winter and of cocooning? And now what do you want to spring forth into? What things of cleaning and preparing and clearing things out of the way so that you can focus on, your highest vision of what not only you want to do that is in alignment with, what God is calling you to do. So that's my encouragement to you for today. I hope you have a beautiful day, and I look forward to talking and catching up with you soon. Bye.